Hi, my name is Lenora Fay. I am a child-free lifestyle content creator, speaker, and moderator, most recently for the 2021 Virtual Child-Free Conference, which you can watch on YouTube. And I also have a child-free lifestyle brand called The Bitchy Bookkeeper.
Hi, I'm Kristen Tetzi. I'm primarily a writer. I've done some journalism, some blogging, and mostly fiction, always trying to incorporate the child-free perspective or child-free infusion, I guess, most recently in my novel, The Age of the Child, in which a very child-free woman finds herself living in a recently post-Roe v. Wade America, where the last abortion clinic has just shut down, and birth control is also frowned upon highly.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I am a coach for child-free women. I help child-free women work through feelings of insecurity, shame, guilt, or anger that may come with our choice to not become mothers. I'm also the host of the Honest Upper podcast, and we are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls. Today's episode is another email that we received from our audience, and this person wrote that she wants us to talk a little bit about relationships, marriage and or long-term relationships, being child-free women, basically. So she tells us that she's been child-free most of her life because all the guys that she met were like baby crazy, which has happened to all of us, I guess. But she met someone recently, and he's nice, considerate, smart. He loves cats, and she just established that he's in the child-free camp. Basically, he's part of our community, so she's very happy about it. So what she asks from us is to discuss, I guess, from our point of view and our experience, what relationship building for child-free couples looks like, what works, what to do, not to do. And of course, I mean, this is going to be completely different in every single couple and in every single relationship, but we could talk about our experiences. I know that we did an episode about 2 years ago about something similar. And so it's going to be interesting to see where we are today. So Kristen, you're the one who's married out of the three of us. Would you like to weigh in on this topic?
Well, one of the things I guess I would like to weigh in on is a specific question asked in the email that I just need to bring up really quick because it's confusing to me, but probably only because I have never really had expectations about much of anything except for the word wife. I never liked the word wife because much like Lenora, I thought it meant something. I thought it, like I heard the word wife and I would feel boa constricted. I just thought it was nothing in the world I ever wanted, which is why I never thought I would get married. Ha ha, joke's on me. She asks, I would love to hear more about relationship building for child-free couples. What works, what to do, not to do. There are no child-free couples to serve as, I guess, examples, or even just that thing that, oh, I see this happening and therefore I know it's possible and I know that it's normal. I guess if you don't see that, you don't know what it means. If all you see are couples with children, like on TV, maybe that's why this person isn't sure how to have a child-free relationship. So yeah, what works, what to do, not to do. I mean, don't
have a kid is probably the first one.
Yeah, don't suddenly spring on the other person that you want to have children. But if you do suddenly want to have children, obviously tell them if you change your mind, and tell them as soon as you change your mind. I don't know, like what I think the only real difference is someone who wants kids, their relationship, if they both want kids, a lot of what they talk about will probably be when we have kids. And they'll be talking about saving for kids and how many bedrooms they want in their apartment or house or whatever for kids, what they're going to name their kids, what kind of parents they're going to be. There's this whole romantic element to the relationship, maybe romanticized. But if you want kids, it's a very romantic thing to think of this future child bond you're going to have. And so you're going to talk about it a lot. What you do for work might fall in as more important because there's this future child you're going to care about or take care of. So that's all nothing that you have to concern yourself with. as a child-free couple. My only advice, I guess, what to do is just have fun. What not to do is try to fit into any kind of mold. I mean, it is what it is. Just enjoy being with each other.
And it's interesting because so Kristen, out of the three of us, Kristen's the one who's married. This is your third marriage. So yeah, honestly, joke's on you.
We're getting married ever.
We don't have to get married because she's been married enough for all of us.
I have.
So.
I'm the one who's dating, and Lenora is the one who hates the word dating, or even
I'm dating in denial.
Yeah, even the concept of dating, but she is building a relationship. So this is very interesting because I think the three of us have different perspective and maybe different experiences, of course. Mm-hmm. And so I think we could maybe talk a little bit about how it's been for us in each of our sort of chosen paths, I guess. Finding the child-free person, if that is like a conscious thing, and then sort of like sometimes I think it's also very important to have really open conversations, not only about the child-free choice, but also about what to do with all this time and all this money. It's like full. So, Lenora, would you like to start?
Well, in my perfect world, I just want to always be in control of my own finances and have my own house. I mean, I've never actively pursued looking for a child-free partner because I've never pursued looking for a partner. I've fallen into relationships, mostly sexual. I had one public relationship. The person was actually my boyfriend, where I said, "This is my boyfriend." But only recently and again was very happy just having companionships with people, and they weren't necessarily with child-free people, because not that they had kids, but they, the possibility of still having a child was there. So I never went looking for child-free people ever. And then an opportunity presented itself and I was pursued by a child, like a genuinely child-free person. And at first I was like, no. And then I thought, well, why not? Because just see what happens. And so something happened and it was hella fun. And so it's like, okay, now what? Again, dating in denial, because I'm thinking, oh, I really, really like my life. But I always said, and I think I've said it on this show, it recorded and it's published, that if I did meet somebody that enhanced my life, that I really enjoy, as right now, then I would consider it. So I'm considering it, and there's no end game or goal. And so when I look at people who are actively seeking baby daddies, baby mamas, there's like a time limit. One thing I will say, as I'm 38 years old, I am, I don't want to be married. I really, really like my autonomy. And one thing I really do appreciate is that there's never a timeline for anything. Like, I never felt I had to find somebody before the age of whatever, 40, 45, 100. I didn't have to find anybody at all. That doesn't mean you don't have fun. That doesn't mean you don't see people. Like I said, I had the same companion for 6 years. I haven't talked to that person in a month because things got a little complicated, but it's not like you're alone. And even that just happened. I didn't seek that out either. So it's just, I find like child-free people, I don't know if child-free people have a timeline, like they want to meet someone by a certain deadline. I don't know if that, because I know if someone's looking to become a parent, there is a timeline, especially when it's a female. So I just feel a lot more free as a child-free person, being somewhat open-minded to being in a relationship, and not necessarily a traditional one. It's just nice to know, like, there's no time. Like, even now, I have to have an answer for this question. Where are we going to live? Or how's this going to work? Because the minute those questions come up, I'm like, I hate that. Business, yes, give me deadlines and I'll be militant, as you two know. But when it comes to personal stuff, give me my freedom and let's see where this goes and let's take our time. And that doesn't mean mating, we'll sleep together on the first date, fine. But, as far as like building a life together, we'll take our time.
I can answer something that you brought up that I think is also it's interesting. Basically, the whole, you need certain, like, there's like a certain, what's the word?
Sorry. I saw that too. Like looking at Kristen.
What did you see?
Somebody walked by in the background and Kristen's like peeking, and I'm like, I saw that.
Kristen speaking like this.
I made the mistake of looking at Kristen because I just, sorry. Okay.
Where was I? Okay. I think you raised something that I want to comment on, like this, this whole idea of timeline, right? Because in couples who want to have children, there is like this biological clock that we've been told about, like always. If they want to have biological children, of course, if they want to adopt or if they want to foster, it's a whole different conversation. But still, there is this idea that you have to be still youthful and have the energy to raise children, which I agree with. But I have met women and I have worked with women in my coaching business who are child-free and who are really scared of being alone. And because they're not going to have children, then their focus shifts to a relationship, So I need to get married because if I'm married, basically that means that I won't be alone when I grow old or, whatever. So it's there's this belief, I guess, and it happens to people who are child-free and who are not child-free, that if you are not in a relationship or if you don't have children, then you're alone. So I think it's something that, it's worth discussing, I guess, or it's worth mentioning in this case specifically.
It is, because it makes me realize that I'm someone that feels secure by herself because I'm in control of everything. Like, again, finances, what I do, health, for the most part. I still have a broken ankle, so things aren't perfect, but I forget about that aspect of it, because the fact of being, as someone that loves, like legit loves being by herself, it scares me to think of having somebody in my personal space all the time. So I forget about the fact that there are people that don't necessarily feel that level of comfort being by themselves, and so they do want to find somebody. So okay, that makes sense, because it depends, because everyone comes from a different angle. Like I feel a sense of security, maybe because I am like financially comfortable and stuff like that. So I do legit feel a sense of security in many areas because I've got what I need. So that does help, and therefore a relationship is just like a fun thing that can happen when it happens, if it happens, Do
the people that you've coached who've wanted to, who've kind of set their focus on being in a relationship because of the fear of being alone, are they comfortable with the idea that being that focused on simply being with somebody or not being alone rather than being with someone because you want to be with them? Like, are they prepared to accept a relationship that's just to be with somebody?
Well, I guess in some cases, yes. I guess in some cases, some women, because I only coach women, sort of settle for somebody just because they don't want to be alone, but they don't feel good about it. And then there are some other cases in which they're like, I don't want to be alone, but at the same time, I don't want to settle. So I think they put a lot of pressure in, themselves, and also like just around them in general, this finding the right person, whether it's a man or a woman or, whatever their sexual orientation is, doesn't matter. Finding this person who is like perfect for them and who has all this checklist. We all have a checklist of what we want in a partner, in a romantic partner, and so it's really hard because it's sort of like they feel guilty about, not guilty, but more responsible of the fact that, oh my God, I need to find somebody, and it has to have all this, like this list has to be checked, but at the same time, they don't want to have kids. They can't have, they have to be child-free as well. And if I don't find them, I'm going to die alone, basically. So it's just, but it's also part of what we've been sold in the society. I mean, it's not only about how prenatalist our society our societies are, how prenatalist in the sense that, parenthood is elevated and whatnot, but also about you need to have a partner, you need to be with someone, and reaching a level of comfort or being comfortable when you're not in a relationship. It doesn't happen to a lot of people. I don't think there are many people who actually actively seek to get to that point, to be honest. And I'm just talking out of experience and like seeing my friends around me.
Why do you think that is? Like that they don't actively seek it? Why?
Because we've been sold the idea that having a partner is the way to go, is one of the things that tick.
Yeah.
And some people have a very, very easy time finding partners. It's not my case, but I met a lot of people around me who, I don't know if they're settling all the time or if they're finding amazing people. I have no idea, because they all seem like they make it seem as everything is amazing. But these are people who like end a relationship and jump to the next one like within a week. Or
like Jennifer Lopez. Sorry.
Sort of.
I love Jennifer Lopez.
Well, I love her too.
but I mean, she's very much like
but
that. Yeah.
Some people never seem to be alone. Like you can see them today with a boyfriend, and then next week they have a completely different boyfriend, and you're like, happened? And I've met a lot of women like that. They find it very easy to find partners because they're good looking, they're nice, they're smart, you name it. But at the same time, and they're very also extra, like most of them are extroverts too. But at the same time, you're like, well, when do you take the time to actually be with yourself and like get to know yourself and spend time with yourself alone, just sort of, finding out what it is that makes you happy and not what makes me happy, like within a relationship, or what makes my partner happy. You know what I mean? So I just feel that we just get so much pressure to tick all these boxes, whether it's kids, whether it's partners, romantic partners, marriage. Marriage is a big one, because the marriage industry is huge as well. So, now, Kristen, you being the one who's married, did you ever feel that, that you had to get married?
No. God, no. No, I seriously didn't want to ever. I mean, I was convinced before I ever got married that I would never get married. There was nothing about it that appealed to me. There was nothing about it that I liked based on what I'd seen in TV. It just looked so, and it might have had to do with the fact that it was always hand in hand with motherhood. But I just knew that I really hated the word wife. I didn't like the idea of any kind of commitment that would trap me into anything. Like I didn't even like going steady, it was just, and I think I might have mentioned this before, that if I had a crush on somebody, as soon as I found out they liked me back, I was done. Like, no, that's too much, because then I have to continue liking you, and then it's a big hassle if I want to stop. I mean,
that is a hassle. That is a hassle, actually.
I didn't like anything to do with it. No, I never felt like I needed to, and I never felt, I never had that white wedding dress, wedding fantasy, princess, whatever. Like I never had any of that. I think I just fell into it a few times.
See, that's going to infuriate people who are desperately trying to get married. It's like, I've had 3 husbands. I don't know how that happened, but.
Well, I asked the third time I asked.
I don't think I knew that.
He wanted to make sure that I wasn't just saying yes. So if we were going to get married, it was because I wanted you so much that I would ask him. And
no, there's a guy that knows you well. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay.
I love that. I mean, I love to hear about you and Ian, because I know that you've known each other for a very long time, and you're like best friends as well as being like married. And he's like really supportive about everything that you do. And I find that super cool. And for those who don't know, Ian's not really child free. He's ambivalent about it, right? He's
free now. I mean, like now he wouldn't want to have kids now, but he did start out just kind of like, I could do it. I could not do it. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, which is, some people, and we've had somebody else in this show. I think it was Jackie, who also was ambivalent herself. I think she chose her husband over the idea
Mhm.
of, having
She
children.
did want kids at one point, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she chose her husband. Yeah.
She chose her husband. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is to say that people who are child free usually look for other people who are child free to date.
Mhm.
But sometimes, I mean, it doesn't even require it to go that far, as in, have you gotten a vasectomy or did you get your tube tied? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessary to be like super child free to be able to date somebody, I guess. And I use the expression super child free very loosely because that means, I mean, having that surgery means nothing in the end.
You have to have a podcast. You have to do this. You have to. That's my standard of being child free. I'm kidding.
For child free. Yeah. So in my case specifically, I've been dating forever, it feels like. I do want to get married. That's something that is appeals to me. And I think it's more about the symbolism behind it. I guess the whole, for example, the wedding part, I find it, I don't want to wear a big white dress. Of course, like I'm too old for that. But I do want to like have that moment of sharing, our love with the people who love us and our families and our friends. And I think I don't want this grandiose thing, but I do want to get married. I think it's, the part of commitment. And I know that it's just a paper, it's just a formality, because you have a lot of people who are like married and they have really bad relationships, and people who are not married who have really good relationships. It means, I mean, in the end, it doesn't give any more, in my my personal opinion is that doesn't give any more weight to a relationship than somebody who hasn't gotten married. But for me, it's important. Um, and it hasn't, I mean, the men that I've dated, I'm straight. So the men that I've dated, they have not been like child free, especially like in the last forever, I guess. I haven't dated a man who, actually just one. I've only dated one man who was like, I'm decidedly child free. And the rest of them, they didn't have any children. And it wasn't that they wanted children, but they didn't want to, like, it wasn't that they were completely decided about it. I'm dating someone now, you saw the ghost behind me. He was having a nap with my dog. I'm here. Anyway, I told him straight up. I mean, this is one of the things that I always tell people. Like, if you are child free, decidedly child free, and you want to date someone and have long-term relationships or even marriage, you have to tell them from the get-go. Don't wait. This is a conversation that you need to have, because if it's a non-negotiable, it really has to be like put out there very quickly. And so I remember with this guy specifically, I told him very early on when we started talking, and he was like, I actually had never thought about it. Like, he's my age. He was like, I haven't had children. I was dating this person who got pregnant and she had an abortion because she chose to have the abortion. And I told her at the time, I support you, whatever decision you make, but I'm not ready to be a dad. And I don't think I'll ever be ready to be a dad. So it's fine with me, like we had this conversation because I was like, this is not going to happen. Like and I'm looking to have a long-term relationship. Like, I really want to find that person. And if you think that this is something that you're going to want, this is not going to work. And I guess it's the same with every other non-negotiables that you have in your life, not only children, but everything else.
So let's say, I mean, it sounds like to me, there's really no difference between being announcedly child free and being someone who's like, I've never really thought about kids. But I was really glad I didn't have that one kid, and I don't think I'll ever be ready for more kids. So that sounds pretty child free to me. And so are there ways that you think you will, let's assume, just for the sake of conversation, that you two are going to, in fact, this applies to both of you, because you both have very different types of relationships, in how you manage your dating, not dating, whatever it is you're doing. And who knows what kind of relationship the woman has who wrote us. So in your navigation through this child-free relationship, do you think there are things that you will be doing differently, or that you, you know, are there just ways you see how the relationship is going to progress that might be different or more challenging or easier because there is no, I wanted to say threat, no future of kids in the distance.
I would have used the word threat.
Yeah, threat's a good word to use. Absolutely. Yes.
Lenora, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it comes down with time, because for me, I don't have a timeline for anything. What I believe in, and partly reason why I decided to embark on this. And again, there's absolutely no commitment expectation whatsoever at this point in place on purpose. I felt like, I guess now at this age, I felt I'm mature enough to give space to something that could potentially be good. I could see something that has long-term potential. Short-term might seem a little awkward given certain circumstances, meaning basically distance. But I thought, well, this could be interesting. Like, I felt compelled enough to give something a shot that long-term I could see a vision for it without the expectation of it actually happening. So I'm like, well, that's never happened before. So, okay, pay attention to that. That's a good feeling. And so really that's the answer, is because I have unlimited time. I don't need monogamy, because I have not been monogamous ever in a relationship. I've been completely honest. I don't need someone by my side at all times. Now, I am open to both of those things evolving to that level. I don't have a timeline where either of those things have to happen. And that's a conversation that we have had, like, because we had that conversation before there was ever feelings involved either. So I kind of do things backwards. I get to know someone and then get into a potential whatever, which I actually quite recommend. But that's not always the case. So that was kind of out of the way. And so for me, as long as I feel like I have the freedom to still pursue my goals, still live my life, incorporating someone, it's like folding something into a cake batter. You don't do it all at once. You just kind of gradually do it. That's what I need to feel comfortable at this particular stage. And then if things naturally progress to those things, great. If not, we'll still be friends and go, or carry on. And that is how I want to feel. And even a friendship for that matter. And I never really thought about it too much before. Like 2 years ago, I was very much like, I got someone to sleep with, to hang out with, that has a lake cabin. Great. That's all I need. And I kind of miss that, but you gotta give things up in order to move forward in life. But it's an interesting space to be in, because it's not ever been my experience before. So again, with no children in the mix, I have endless loads of time and dozens, like 100 thousands of possibilities as to how things could play out. And I like that, because I have options, and I feel like, and hopefully that other person feels that same way too. I mean, I think so. So, well, yes. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but personally, that's what I need in order to actually be a decent partner of sorts to somebody. Like, I need to feel like I've got my endless amounts of personal space, so that would never, ever, ever happen with a child, ever. You just couldn't do that, because you at some point have to, I mean, you could be a nomad with a child, but that you still have to cater to somebody else, right?
And you know what? That whole thing about taking time and, wanting to have the time to let it evolve made me think about how, if you are someone who's planning to have kids, not only do you not have the time to do that, but if you're on this timeline, you kind of have to, cross your fingers and hope that this person is still going to be the right person in 5 years, once you've already, had this kid, because now they're in your life forever. And if you feel pressured to make it work, it's just so much pressure. And in relationships where there are no kids, like Ian and I could get divorced in a week and no one's going to feel it except for him and me. There's no kid. Oh, but then pets don't count. But you know what I mean?
But also too, not just them changing, you changing. That's
No,
the
that's
other
what I
thing.
mean. Like anything
Yeah.
could happen.
Yeah. Like if you're the one physically giving birth to the child, I mean, even if you're adopting, it doesn't matter. As long if you were raising a kid, however you got the child,
Right.
that still changes the dynamic. And that, I don't say that as a deterrent to not have kids, because I mean, my parents stayed married after even raising me, and I've joked about that before, but like that marriage survived raising Lenora, but still there's different dynamics, and that's, I lost my train of thought with that, but it's not, you can have a good relationship, a healthy relationship, and raise children. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just, if it's a, like, it's an absolute deal breaker for me. Like, I don't want to raise anybody's children. I don't care if they're adults, because adults have their own kids, and then there's grandkids involved. Like, I look at even my dad's relationship. He married a child free by choice woman. My dad does not look after the grandkids. He's got two of them. My brother's got two kids. They don't, they're both retired now. My dad and his wife, not my nephews, but they, they're traveling. People are always assuming, oh, you're spending more time with the grandkids. They're like, well, a little bit, but no, like, we have our life. So there's that expectation. And my point is I do not want to, like, no one can have kids. If you father somebody or mother, well, yeah, that could be a potential too. Like, it's just, no. And that is something that has to be, for me, is I won't entertain that idea. And therefore, I think that it does help that I am very comfortable being by myself, because I guess that's another thing to talk about, is how do you meet a child-free person? Like a legit child-free person. How do you meet that person? Is that even possible? Yes, it is, but it's like lightning in a bottle. It's usually unexpected.
Yeah. To answer Kristen regarding the challenges, this is something that I have experienced already. I mean, I'm barely in a relationship. We've been dating for not too long at all, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most child-free people are super independent, or they really value their space, different degrees, of course. There's like Lenora. I'm kidding. But yeah, I'm also really independent. Like, I also value my space. So I think one of the challenging things is talking about respecting each other's spaces, sort of. Mm-hmm. And not only like at home, but also like if one of them wants to like take vacation with their friends or by themselves, because some couples don't allow that. Like, some people really want to spend every waking moment with their partner. And I personally find that, like, no, I don't want to do that. And I think that many child-free people will agree with me that if we decided we don't want to be tethered to a child, then we don't want to be tethered to a partner either. So that's one of the challenging things. And the other thing that I find it's also very important and might be challenging as well is talking about finances, not only about like, how are we going to make this work in terms of finance, but also when we retire, how are we going to make this? Because you don't have children to sort of take care of you, which is also a fallacy, because mm-hmm. not everyone takes care of their parents in their old age, because they don't want to, because they don't have the resources to do it, you name it. There's so many reasons. So, but people have been sold this idea that, no worry, if you have children, they're going to take care of you when you're old. And, you being in a child-free relationship, you need to take care of yourselves, both of you. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this in the long run. Where do you want to retire? How do you want to do mm-hmm. this? How much do we need to save? So I think those are like the two most challenging things that you need to like, be able to talk to with your partner, your child-free partner, if you like want to build, a relationship. Of course, there are other things, and I think those other things that are also important are more on a case-to-case basis. I wouldn't mind, for example, to have a conversation about how much time are we spending with our families, because that's another thing.
Zero.
Right? That would be my answer.
I mean, I'll spend time with my family. You spend time with your family. We'll have dinner afterwards. That's my ideal scenario.
Yeah, that's a whole. I mean, that's for me personally also important. But you know, like I said, for me, but the two main ones are the ones I mentioned before. Yeah.
Can I mention something, Isabel? What if you don't want to retire? Because this conversation I have had recently, because I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I'm an entrepreneur. I will always be an entrepreneur. I never want to retire. I don't mean I don't want to have to do something in my 70s. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to hustle. No, but I still want to be like whatever it is, whether it's, I mean, I still envision myself having child-free conversations until the day I die, which is at 95, because I legit want to be a part of this conversation forever. And there's other things as well too, like other, musical aspirations and God knows what other opportunities await for me. Like, that's what excites me about life. So I recently had that conversation. Someone was talking about retirement planning. I'm like, you have to realize that I am not a person that will retire. And again, it's not because I have to work or hustle. It's because I still want to create and do things and be active. So can a long-term plan survive if somebody wants to be a go-getter forever? I think of like someone, again, like Dolly Parton, like Joan Rivers, like people that are in public spaces who are performers or speakers or whatever. Like, that is going to be me unless something happens. But I am not a retiring person ever, because I haven't had the career that I'm working towards now yet.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to be a party pooper, but like, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the future holds. And I think, because I mean, ideally, I would also love to be active until the day I die, whether that means doing something that will bring revenue in or not, doesn't matter. I want to be active. But I think that you also have to be realistic in the sense that sometimes things don't work the way you want them to, and you need to have like a plan B. And I guess the plan B would be retiring. And even as a retired person, you may be able to still do things, but not worry about, am I getting enough revenue in or enough income in to be able to survive? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think retiring means sitting around all day staring at the beach. No.
But that's the thing. Like, I how I don't like the word dating. I don't like the word retiring for that reason. I don't either, because it has too many implications. Like, like I said, I don't want to be hustling because I have to. I don't want to be creating things because I have to. But I cannot, I want to have I look like I'm retired now, but, because I haven't had a 9-to-5 in 4 years. But, like, again, it's the way society has put things around words, and the way words have been used. I don't like the thing. Okay, the reason why I put it this way is because the person I've had the conversation with is working a 9-to-5, will probably always have a 9-to-5, wants to retire from that. Therefore, living in one spot, kind of, that's what they think in their mind currently. For me, I'm like, I'm not like that now. Like, I know where I want my home base to be. I always want to have a home base. So if I don't have to do anything, I can. But as long as I'm able, I will always be creating things. And I never feel like I will have enough careers to retire from.
Retirement doesn't mean stopping what you're doing. It doesn't mean stopping anything. Like, for instance, we just set up.
It does, though.
No, like, for some people who don't want to do anything, that's what it means.
Yeah.
But overall, like, we just set up a tent today for Ian's retirement party, which he's having tomorrow. And I hate the word retirement because all I see is some guy in a Hawaiian shirt and socks and sandals drinking a really bad beer. So, like, I hate the word. I hate how close it is to death, just by connotation.
Yes.
But I felt that way about owning a house too. Like, I never want to own a house. You may as well just die because you're stuck there forever.
Guess what? You own a house.
Yeah, we've owned a couple, and that was an educational thing, because it's like, oh, you can buy a house and you can sell it. You don't have to die there. It doesn't have to be like where you end up until you're like rickety. But the thing is, we're having this retirement party tomorrow, and then in about a week, he's going flying for the airline. I mean, he's actively flying as a commercial pilot. So he's retiring from one specific job, and he just started another one that he'll be forced to retire from at 65. But his dad is a retired general, and he's so busy. Like, he's doing so much volunteer stuff, and he's had a couple of jobs since getting out. There are just certain things that, like, you don't stop moving, you don't stop creating, you don't stop being inventive and thinking and working and producing. It's just that if you're not making money doing those things, you want to make sure that your retirement is a stash of cash you have in case you break your ankle again, or in case you don't have someone there to, so you can pay your mortgage or your rent or whatever. It's just really, it just means preparing to have money for when you need it, if you can no longer produce that income. That's all it is.
And I think, and to those points that both you made, I think that's where you have to have that discussion. Like, what does retirement mean to you? Because to one person, it means, okay, I have this job that I go to for a paycheck that's, and this is what I've been doing, and I'm retiring from that. And then if you have like someone retiring in an entrepreneurial space, that looks something different as well, whether it's like, for me, like constant residual income or whatever. Like it just, because retirement is not the same for everybody. So that conversation, and sometimes you have to explain what that means. And if someone's not in that, not everyone understands what being an entrepreneur is, or even, okay, so like when you're at the beginning of a relationship and the finances come up and how you live is not normal, like me, and you only tell the other person so much. Like, I'm not going to hand you my investment portfolio and give you a breakdown. No. But sometimes people don't understand that, money comes in different ways, not necessarily just a paycheck. And so when it comes to retiring, and when it comes to like, how do you fund your life now and all that sort of thing, and how much information do you want to give, because that's classified information for protecting yourself, for one. I believe in prenups. If I ever get married, there will be a prenup to protect me. But like, this is it's stuff like that. Like, not everyone, like, I might understand things at a certain level, but the other person might not. And you have to have those seemingly awkward conversations where you don't want to tell them everything, because that's also none of their business yet. And you also don't want people talking about certain things. But it's complicated. Like, the money conversation is complicated. Even if both of you are both financially okay, it's still complicated. And then the expectation as when you get older, building something long-term, like, absolutely, it needs to be, it's a very, very important conversation. I guess it depends on how soon it comes up. And again, when you live a life that doesn't look normal to the other person, and they want to know how, and they don't quite understand how it's working, but it is, it's like, sorry, I may have been talking from personal experience.
If your plan is to spend your life together, I agree that with both of you that you should talk about money. Like, let's say you're going to get married someday, are you going to have joint finances? Are you going to have partially joint and then have your own stuff? And so that is because finances, I think finances is one of the biggest problems relationships have. But I think another thing, especially kind of early in the relationship, that might want to talk about, because you're both don't want kids, is it something like, there's some couples who are like, we're never telling our parents anything. We don't, whenever someone asks, this is what we're going to say. I think it could be helpful, if you haven't discussed it yet, to figure out, if you are going to be around each other's families, if it comes up, how much are you going to say? Are you going to say anything? Are you going to, get your story straight? Like, you're either going to tell the truth, or you're going to come up with a sort of shove off, delayed sort of thing. But I would get that figured out, because that gives a lot of people problems too.
Oh, totally. Unless you're like super out there where everybody knows you're child free anyway, then it's no problem.
Right.
But who not very many of us are like that. But that's true. We had a couple on the show that talked about that they didn't even tell one of the parents that they had a vasectomy or something. Like, I think that's more common, that they kind of just keep it hush hush. And this again is when I think of being a child-free couple, not necessarily me, but child-free couples in general, I would think, I'm like, you kind of have each other's backs in that regard. I mean, we had Dan Alexander on the show and we were asking him about, if him and his wife were at a party or a social situation, how does that work when questions come up? Like who gets asked that question, who answers it? I think, to me anyway, I think it'd be cool to have like a couple just stand up to all their family and go, hey, we're sterilized. We're not having kids. Come talk to us about it. I mean, that, we need child-free power couples really is like to talk about stuff like that. Because for me personally, like being child-free, it's not my entire identity, but obviously it's something I'm very passionate about advocating for. So therefore I'm vocal about it. I would, and this is something I had to think about. It's like, I don't need anyone to defend me, but if I do have a partner, meaning someone I have publicly with me, they would absolutely have to be able to stand up, and because I would be very vocal, even in a social situation, very, very vocal about it. Again, the united front, because yeah, I mean, it's communication. If someone's on the fence, again, if someone's on the fence about having kids and you're building a life with that person and you don't want to have kids, I mean, we see it all the time. We hear it all the time. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky.
Did we answer her question?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's hard to answer it, but
it almost seems like if you're going into a child-free relationship, it seems like you have one hurdle, like a big, huge hurdle out of the way already. And that's all of the planning for finances. And most of all, for some reason, I'm really hung up on the thing about, like this person better be right for me because we're going to have this kid, and you don't have, 10, 20 years for it to go bad because you're stuck forever, whether you decide to stay married or whether you get divorced and this person is still in your life because they're attached to your kid. So just enjoy that. Enjoy that you can be in a relationship utterly free and be there the entire time, unless you're in a bad situation. I'm not discounting those situations where people can't escape, but, just consider this your average relationship. You aren't tied beyond your own desire to be there ever.
yes.
There's no pressure to stay. There's no pressure to stay. You're happy or you're not, you stay or you don't, and you have utter freedom. And I think that's just the best. So enjoy that.
If you ever want to get married again, I'll marry you because I like your attitude. That's not a proposal. It's just a thought.
I probably say yes. I say yes all the time.
Good point.
Hello.
Right. And with that, this is the end of our episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening to us. You can visit our website at childfreegirls.com, or you can send us an email to childfreegirls@gmail.com. We receive emails all the time, and we can tell you that we read them all. We might take a little bit to answer them, but we do read them. So we're very, very happy to hear from all of you.
And of course, you can find us all over social media. We are at Childfree Girls on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and TikTok occasionally. We are on Reddit, and you can also find us on the Clubhouse app. We run a club called Childfree Club. So you can just download the app, whether you're on Android or iPhone, and search Childfree Club, send a request to join. We will let you in, and tell us that, or mention in the bio or the thingy that Childfree Girls sent you, so we know that you found us through the show, and we'll let you in. And we host audio conversations 7 days a week. Oh, and we're on Amazon. Yes, Childfree Girls behind me there. Childfree Girls Comfort Food for Thought, available on Kindle and in paperback.
And our question for you this episode will be, if you are in a child-free relationship, have you found there to be a challenge particular to your child-free situation? Or alternatively, Has there been something that you have found is especially easy because children are a part of your future? And if you're not in a child-free relationship, and I just want to leave this open because there are so many different types of relationships and stages of relationships. I'm just really interested to know what's going on wherever you are. If you are not in a relationship, but you're hoping to be in a child-free relationship, what kind of experience are you having trying to find somebody else who's child-free? You leave your answers below here in the comments, or you can email us at the previously mentioned address, which is childfreegirls@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because even if you're only listening on the podcast, it is very helpful to have you, listener, as a subscriber.
Yes. I thought you were going to ask the question, will you marry me, just for the hell of it?
And will you all marry me? You can't be married enough.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. No, you say bye.
No, you say bye.
Oh my God, I'm leaving.
You leave first.
I'm going.
Bye.
Bye.